Welcome, friends. We are absolutely thrilled to have you here with us. Today we journey into the powerful and often overlooked story of Miriam, prophetess, protector, worship leader, and the brave sister of Moses. Her courage shaped the destiny of a nation, yet her story is rarely told in full. What secrets lie in her rise, her fall, and her unshakable faith? Sit tight, because what you're about to discover will inspire your heart and stir your spirit. If you love uplifting Bible stories and spiritual inspiration, don't forget to subscribe for more life-changing content. Let's begin. Kingdom Inspirations presents to you the untold story of Miriam, sister of Moses, prophetess, and powerful leader. In this video, we will explore the breathtaking journey of Miriam, the fearless prophetess, devoted sister of Moses, and one of the most powerful yet often overlooked women in the Bible. You'll discover how her bravery as a child helped save Moses, how she rose to become a spiritual leader, and the pivotal role she played in Israel's victory. We'll uncover her complex relationship with Moses and Aaron, her painful fall from grace, her emotional time in isolation, and the legacy she left behind in the wilderness. Each chapter reveals a profound truth about faith, leadership, failure, and redemption. Stay with us. This is a story that will move your heart and deepen your understanding of divine purpose. What happens when a woman called by God rises to lead, but struggles to be heard in a world ruled by men? Miriam's story is one of faith and fire, of loyalty and pride, of worship and warning. She faced the challenge of supporting greatness while yearning to be seen herself. Was her fall a failure, or a divine lesson in humility? This is a journey of power, purpose, and the price of spiritual leadership. A girl by the river watches destiny float on reeds. A whisper of courage shaping history's seeds. A voice that sings when the sea splits wide. A sister, a seer, with fire in her stride. She walks with giants, yet shadows grow long. Her words once gold, now echoing wrong. 7 days in silence, a nation held still. A prophetess fading, yet speaking still. Her story is etched where the wilderness weeps. In the silence where legacy quietly sleeps. She was more than Moses' sister. She was a voice in the silence, a warrior in worship, a leader hidden in the shadows of giants. Miriam stood at the river's edge and defied death, danced on dry ground after the sea split wide, then fell from grace with a single whisper of pride. Cast out. Alone. Broken. Yet her story didn't end in shame. It echoes with redemption, resilience, and legacy. This isn't just a Bible story. It's a mirror of human strength, failure, and the aching beauty of God's mercy. Feel it. Live it. Remember her. Now let's take a deep breath and journey together into the heart of Miriam's story, a tale woven with courage, conflict, calling, and consequence. As we peel back the layers of her life, you'll see not just history, but humanity. Her triumphs will inspire you. Her struggles will reflect you. And her legacy will challenge you. Get ready. We're diving deep into a story that still speaks to the soul today. The sun beat down on the land of Egypt, but in the hearts of the Hebrew people, a colder shadow loomed, one of slavery, sorrow, and a king's cruel decree. Pharaoh's fear had become a death sentence for every Hebrew baby boy, and the cries of mothers filled the air like incense of despair. But in the midst of this darkness, a light flickered, in the heart of a little girl named Miriam. She was just a child, yet the weight of her family's hope pressed gently on her shoulders. When her mother placed baby Moses into a basket woven with desperation and faith, it was Miriam who stood watch. Not a soldier, not a priest, just a brave sister, hiding behind reeds, her eyes fixed on the future floating before her. What thoughts filled her young mind as the river carried her brother toward the unknown? What fears gripped her heart? And yet, she did not run. She waited. She watched. She believed. And when Pharaoh's daughter drew the child from the water, it was Miriam's voice, steady, courageous, that offered a nurse, reuniting her brother with their mother under the very nose of the oppressor. This was not coincidence. This was calling. Before she ever sang a song of deliverance, before she was known as a prophetess of Israel, Miriam was chosen. Born for a divine purpose, her courage became the first thread in the great tapestry of God's deliverance. She was young, but her faith was already fierce. Imagine the courage it took for a young girl to step forward in the face of unimaginable power. Miriam, barely more than a child, had just witnessed a moment that would change history forever. Pharaoh's daughter, daughter of the most powerful man on earth, had found the Hebrew baby floating in a basket on the Nile. Yet, it was Miriam's boldness that sealed the child's fate. With her heart pounding and hands trembling, Miriam approached the princess, her voice steady despite the storm of fear within. She offered a simple, brilliant plan. "Shall I go and call a nurse for you from among the Hebrew women?" In that moment, Miriam wasn't just a sister. She became an unexpected protector, a bridge between two worlds. Her quick thinking ensured Moses would be nurtured by his own mother, preserving the very promise God had whispered through the ages. This wasn't luck. This was divine orchestration. Miriam's daring act, born from faith and fierce love, set into motion the rescue of a nation. Her steps by the riverbank were the first echoes of a leadership that would later guide Israel through the wilderness and into freedom. Behind this moment lies an unseen hand, the hand of God shaping a future not just for Moses, but for an entire people. Miriam's bravery wasn't just a childhood story, it was the beginning of a legacy that changed everything. She had once watched silently by the Nile. But now, Miriam stood boldly on the shores of the Red Sea, her voice rising like thunder after the storm. No longer just the sister of Moses, Miriam had become a prophetess, a spiritual leader whose faith stirred the hearts of a nation just delivered from the grip of bondage. Israel had walked through walls of water, each step a miracle under God's mighty hand. Pharaoh's army had been swallowed by the sea, their chariots scattered like dust. And in the wake of that breathtaking victory, it was Miriam who lifted her tambourine, her soul ablaze with praise. "Sing ye to the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously," she cried, and the women followed. This was not just a song. It was a declaration. A cry of triumph that echoed through generations. With every beat, Miriam reminded Israel who their deliverer was. Her worship wasn't rehearsed. It was born from the fire of faith, shaped by years of slavery, and released in a moment of overwhelming freedom. Here we see Miriam rise, not in pride, but in power. Not in title, but in testimony. She was a woman called, chosen, and courageous. A prophetess who didn't just witness God's hand. She responded to it. In that moment of victory, Miriam's voice became the voice of a people. She turned deliverance into devotion, and her song became a monument of praise that would never be forgotten. She had walked beside him since birth, first as protector, then as prophetess. But while Moses stood in the spotlight, it was Miriam who led in the shadows. Her name was not always shouted from mountaintops, but her influence ran deep, quiet like a river, powerful like the current beneath it. Miriam's journey wasn't marked by thrones or titles, but by the quiet sacrifices of leadership few ever saw. She stood with Moses and Aaron not only as a sibling, but as a spiritual voice, a guide, a counselor, a woman navigating the delicate line between calling and silence in a world ruled by men. She was present at every pivotal moment. Yet often, she stood in the background, watching as the younger brother she once saved became the mouthpiece of God. How heavy it must have been, to carry the weight of wisdom, to endure the pressures of spiritual responsibility, and still be overlooked in the eyes of the people. But Miriam bore it with grace. Her leadership wasn't loud, it was loyal. She interceded when others would have condemned. She remained when others would have retreated. Behind every great movement is someone who labors in the unseen, and Miriam was that someone. Her story reminds us that true leadership doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it serves in silence. Sometimes, it sacrifices in secret. And sometimes, the greatest strength is the quiet endurance of those who walk faithfully beside greatness, even when the world forgets to look their way. Even the strongest voices can falter. Even the most faithful hearts can stumble. Miriam, once the fearless sister at the river, now stood at the center of a divine storm, her voice no longer singing, but questioning. Together with Aaron, she spoke against Moses. Perhaps it was frustration. Perhaps it was pride. Perhaps the pain of being unseen in a world where her leadership was often shadowed. Has the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? She asked. A question that echoed deeper than its words, a question born of jealousy, weariness, and wounded pride. But heaven listened, and heaven responded. In a moment, the presence of God descended. He called the three siblings forward, and his voice thundered with holy fire. God reminded them that Moses wasn't just a prophet, he was entrusted with face-to-face communion. The weight of that calling was not for envy but reverence. Then came the judgment. Miriam, once cloaked in honor, was suddenly marked with leprosy, her skin white as snow, her body isolated, her voice silenced. Aaron cried out. Moses pleaded. And still, she was cast outside the camp. The lesson was searing: words have power. Pride has a price. Even those closest to God are not beyond correction. But even then, mercy hovered close. This was a turning point. A painful fall. A humbling silence. Miriam's journey reminds us that greatness doesn't exempt us from discipline, and that sometimes, the most powerful redemption begins with being broken before God. Silence fell, not just upon Miriam, but across the entire nation. The once vibrant prophetess, whose tambourine had echoed with triumph by the Red Sea, now sat alone, cast outside the camp. Her skin bore the mark of judgment, but her soul bore something even heavier: shame, grief, and reflection. For 7 days, time seemed to hold its breath. Israel did not move forward. They waited, paused in honor of the one who had once led their praise. The silence was not just physical, it was spiritual. It was a time for reckoning. A time for remembering that leadership, no matter how anointed, still answers to the holy. Imagine her solitude, once celebrated, now separated. Each day in isolation, a mirror to her soul. Each hour, an invitation to wrestle with the weight of her actions. The judgment had been swift, but the mercy was not withheld. Her brother, Moses, the same brother she had protected as a child, interceded for her healing. His prayer reached heaven, and God, though just, extended compassion. Those 7 days were not merely punishment. They were purification. For Miriam, they stripped away pride and revealed a deeper grace. For Israel, it was a sobering reminder: no one walks above God's word, not even their heroes. And for us, it's a call to reflect on forgiveness, on restoration, and on how we treat those who fail. Because sometimes, the most powerful lessons aren't in the miracles, but in the moments when everything stands still. No crowds wept aloud. No grand eulogies were written. No monument was built in her name. Yet the earth itself mourned when Miriam breathed her last in the wilderness of Zin. The well of water, lifeblood to the people, dried up the moment she passed. It was as if nature understood what Israel had yet to fully grasp. A giant had fallen. Miriam died far from the promised land, yet her life had already carved a path toward it. She was more than a sister, more than a prophetess. She was a mother of a nation's faith. Her voice, once lifted in praise of the shores of deliverance, still echoes through history in every song of freedom, every act of holy defiance, every woman who dares to rise with courage in her bones. She didn't enter Canaan, but her legacy crossed the river. Though her ending was quiet, her story is anything but. She shaped generations not by holding a staff, but by holding a people together, with wisdom, with faith, and sometimes with nothing more than presence. Her failures did not erase her impact. If anything, they made her legacy more human, more relatable, more enduring. Today we remember Miriam, not just for the part she played in Moses' journey, but for the journey she took herself. Through silence, through song, through sin, and through strength, she led. And in her footsteps, we are reminded, even in the wilderness, a woman of faith can leave behind a river of hope. As Miriam's journey fades into the wilderness, her legacy still speaks, of courage, of worship, of grace through failure. Reflective question. 1. What lesson from Miriam's story stood out to you the most, and why do you think it's still relevant today? 2. How does Miriam's journey challenge our understanding of leadership, especially in times of silence or failure? 3. What does Miriam's legacy teach us about redemption, purpose, and the power of faith-filled women in God's story? We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for walking this sacred path with us, for feeling her heartbeat and witnessing her strength. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating revelations and powerful Bible stories that stir the soul. Your presence here means everything. Until next time, stay inspired, stay faithful, and keep seeking the deeper truths hidden in the stories we thought we knew.